Back again, Daniel here with the latest update to my Java project, ProxCtrlJ. It's a Proxmox VE desktop client written in Java. It's been a little bit of a little pet project for me to learn Java, and this is sort of what we're up to. So what you would have seen in my last video was um, I had a lot of the node statuses and stuff working, but it was just raw JSON, so it wasn't actually parsed or readable in any sense of the matter. So lately I've been working on that, and sort of this is where I'm at. As you can see, that we've got not only the JSON sorted out, but I'm actually selecting the required parts that I want and showing that in a way more readable manner and splitting it up into what it is. So I sort of plan to make this a bit more repeatable in not just a text box, as it is in this instance, which is just unmodified text field, but possibly using tables or static lines to show that in a bit better of a state. And down the bottom here, we've got our RAM usage as an example as well. And one thing that I'm working towards is actually turning it into a bit of a gauge, so it'll show hopefully real time where that usage is being in a graphical manner rather than just numbers, which is just showing pure megabytes, which is apparently converted. And in the other update, I believe that I didn't even have the other parts listed, but in the disks, we can actually see what disks are in that server and getting the health in passed and failed in those manners and seeing what it is. In networking, we can see all the network cards, including the VLANs, and based on those types of what types of cards they are. So at the moment, a lot of these things come in randomly, so it'll change differently on how you launch the software and what it reads first. So at the moment, yeah, it is pretty random. So we've got like our Ethernet CAN and VLAN and the bridge, whereas like in one of my previous iterations, it would show that Ethernet down the bottom for some reason. So I haven't looked at that. It's not top of my list at the moment, but I'd like to probably show that in a bit of a table instead of just, again, raw text. In the storage, we can see all the storage mounts and what their contents are and usages in percentages, which I think is really cool. And then on the update screen, which I think I showed before, is that it'll list and provide that count. One thing I did have before was like an icon to glow red if there was a lot of updates that were pending, but I took that out because that didn't actually work when I ran it in Windows for some reason, because I'm developing this in Linux. It should be cross-platform, but for some reason it was throwing an error about the type of icons I was using wasn't compatible in Windows. Another big update for this is, and I haven't updated the version codes here, but in the About screen, you'll notice that there is now a different logo. Same with the desktop icon down the bottom here in the taskbar. So this is a Jabiru. It's an Australian bird or Australasian bird. And I chose this one because it was basically an Australian bird that started with the letter J. Kept it nice and simple. So I had ChatGPT create a bit of an image for me as a bit of a prototype, because the one that it was using before, which I think if I go into my previous logo, looked pretty bad. It was incoherent, didn't mean anything, and in true AI generated image style, there's just wonky lines everywhere, and it just didn't matter. So that's all where we're at with that. Furthermore, another update is to the tree. So not only have we got like the names, but of the VMs, but I've also got the IDs showing, and in the IDs, it's sorted by IDs as well. Because before I had a similar problem here, where stuff was just random and it would change every time you go to use it. So that's now sort of like a cool little thing that I've added in. Previously, I didn't have almost anything in the window when we double clicked on it, because it was showing just the labels and everything else, but nothing worked, and you could see that the little things weren't working. So when we actually open up a window, like let's take this box right here, you can see that we've got torrent. This checks the status, confirms running, and gives it a color onto that label. Now, one thing I want to change is splitting this out so the status label stays black, but the running or stopped has the color. It's pulling up the ID and the runtime for that VM from Proxmox. Now, one of the big things that I was working on was trying to get the VNC window to display here. So you would have like instant access to the console. My biggest issue was that the way I was doing it ended up that learning it required um, a web server to display those pages, and so that was going to add on so much time to coding. So the way that I'm going to be doing it as in the short term is using this button. It will actually use your default browser to launch a direct window with straight to the no VNC console from here. And ideally it would be like a simple window with no like drop downs, tabs, or anything like that, just a blank window using your default browser. That's sort of where I'm at. So just to show you, like, seeing what the stopped, and it's got no time on that one as well. In terms of other areas, before I hadn't had really anything in the create VM space, whereas now I've sort of did a bit of work on updating some of these tabs to actually have more fields. So there are drop downs, there's fields for the name, startup order, and all that sort of stuff. None of this works. It's just fields at the moment because I wanted to get the layout and some of the functionality working. So for example, in this view, we can select these boxes, but like for example, when you go use disk image, it'll actually pop up and ask you where you want that ISO to come from. At the moment, these are all just placeholder values that don't do anything, but I will be coding in to look up what you've got available in your Proxmox server and populate those, as well as doing a better job at the guest OS part. So if we were to tick off that, it'll actually collapse that down. And just no meter is an option as well. So like here, if I click Windows, then I've got placeholders for all those versions of Windows that will equal something for when you actually create it. But yeah, that's all we're doing. Same with this area. So that's going to be interesting when I actually develop that out and enter all that in, so you can create a VM and all that sort of stuff. So there are more things to program out here and finish off all the other tabs. So, and on the summary tab, to obviously pull in everything that you've ticked and configured, it should show that in the summary page. So that hasn't been replicated here in the create CT, so that was just copy and pasted. None of these have anything else in here at the moment. So as far as updates concerned, like, this has taken me a while to get to this point, but pretty happy with sort of the learning that we've done. Some of the code aspect of it I'm working on is sort of cleaning up some of the code, so it's a bit more consistent. Better use of methods and classes across the apps, because there are instances where the same stuff is repeated in code in different classes where that can be cleaned up. I've got an error at the moment with the console stuff that I've got to work on, as well as like some of the main console window and how it handles stuff. I think could be done a lot better as well. But I'm learning at the moment, so I'm not too fussed about how things are going. But it's interesting to know what I'm sort of learning. I'm not great with the syntaxes or anything like that, or what I should be using at that time, and I'm still heavily relying on guide pages and ChatGPT to help me get there. But because ChatGPT isn't perfect, I'm learning what it's trying to do and then having to plug that into the code that exists so it works. So I figure that's kind of like my learning in that area, without having to rely on tutorials. So yeah, so that's ProxCtrlJ and where we're up to at the moment. And yeah, leave a comment down below on what you're working on at the moment, and give it a like. So thank you.